Recording.
Let's call this meeting to order. So we roll call. Roger. Present. Jessica.
Present.
Mike will not be. Mark.
Here.
Patrick.
Okay.
Paul. I think is also gonna miss, and then Jacob. Here. Okay. Approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
We approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Report of officers, treasurer. You're up.
We will be holding off the August report until September. We don't have financials available at this time.
That was quick.
They're ready, but they're not in a printer that we can access.
Financials are not ready.
Oh, wow, the claims, sorry.
Claims I printed
Yes.
out and left
So
sitting
you
on the
had to
printer.
say it wasn't ready and have all that next week.
There you go.
We have the bills to approve.
So,
Anybody gonna be upset?
well, all
We're
the,
paying them. I just don't have a total for you. I checked it out, left it on the printer and came here trying to get the rest of them processed before we started. I don't have any way to access it.
Do any of the claims require our approval in order to meet our statutory?
all the utilities that we're allowed to pay those, so.
It's all utilities. I mean, there's some Asbury bills in here, but I think we just need to go ahead and pay them. There's a couple of Creek of Alt bills that were back in April, May that were not processed, so we need to get those paid. That's it. The rest of them are utilities and stuff like that.
We won't complain.
There was like 38,000 from Asbury. There's a lot of caustic soda, like 5 months of caustic soda in there. 11,000 for a pump, and then
The replacement pump that we
For
discussed, in
Granger.
Granger, and then the repair bills for the pump and on.
that was like $7,000 in aggregate, 7,663.
So, I mean, if the board is comfortable authorizing, we go ahead and just approve the bills that we have on hand, and again, we can circulate the information at September's meeting to ratify.
I have a motion to that effect.
So moved.
A motion, I have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good to go. We'll now move on to general business. Ken,
Actually, well, the first one would be Asbury.
locates. Kevin,
You're on mute,
or
Kevin.
Dan, either one of you.
Yeah, maybe Kevin went to sleep.
No, we're both here. Sorry.
You're up.
So a few weeks ago, we took over doing the locates for JPR on behalf of the district. JPR, they kind of wanted to step back from doing that. I think, I mean, obviously we're more well equipped to do it. We currently have 2 full-time locators on our staff that work in the area. We have one of our guys actually lives, I think he lives in Granger, and the other guy lives on the other side. So we feel like we're well positioned to do this. Obviously, we're already doing it. The proposal that we put together was sort of a flat rate, and that's something that all of our contracts that we're doing now for operations, we're responsible for locates as well, and we're just kind of building it into the price as a flat rate for a couple reasons. One reason is it's easier for us too, on the administrative side of billing individual locates and tracking all that time. There can be a burden, and there's a cost associated with that. Additionally, it makes it easier for the district to budget. So you're not going to have any surprises where you're going to have, months where you get a locate bill that's $8,000, because some major project came through the way. As a part of our locate proposal, we may not have included it, but we intend to do to map the system as well on GIS that helps you and it helps us. It makes it easier for us to do the locates, and that takes time to do as well. It's not something that'll happen overnight, but when we have downtime from locates, we intend to map it so that we have that information more readily accessible, and also it'll help us sort of fine tune the maps that are already in Indiana 811 to make sure that the district's not getting locate requests for locates that are outside of their, not necessarily their service area, but nowhere near that need to be located. So
Evan, can you outline what the proposal includes, the fee structure itself?
sure. So what we did was we looked at your so when JPR notified you that they were no longer going to provide that locating service, they asked us to try to guarantee their pricing structure, I guess you could say. And instead of guaranteeing their pricing structure, we tried to do a little, do better, because obviously when they're charging you by the hour, you could really get hit with a huge bill if things get out of control. And so what we did was we looked at the average number of locates over the previous 3 years. So we got the data for 22, 23, and year to date 2024 to kind of come up with the proposal. And I know that you guys are probably aware the bulk of the locates do come from the Granger sub-district, and you do get a lot in Auten, and also fewer in Wyatt, but the bulk come in Granger. So what the essence of our proposal is that we would do it for a flat rate. The Granger would be $4,000 a month, Wyatt $750 a month, Auten is $900 a month. Where we are required, we will also locate the power as necessary. And I know that's kind of, and Dan he knows more about that on some of the grinders require it and some of them don't. So I'm not as familiar with that, but I think, we have specialized software that helps us track that, and we can provide reports if necessary on how many locates we're getting, how long it's taking to do these locates, and any of that kind of information. But having us do it, we're going to get notified right away when something gets hit, and it really closes that loop. And so that when something happens, our team can notify, we would be notified immediately, and we don't have to wait for somebody else to call and say, hey, your grinder station has gotten hit, because we're going to be one of the first calls. And so, we would be able to get people not only just answering the locate side of it, but to respond to it for our customers on the customer side as well.
What kind of reporting will you provide back to the board on a quarterly basis, semi-annual, annual basis? Because we're gonna need some type of documentation for these charges. One for our buddies, the State Board of Accounts.
Yes, we could definitely do quarterly reports, and kind of we can do it that way. If this pricing structure doesn't work, we can pool it and then reconcile on an annual basis. But what we were thinking is just building this into the annual to our monthly rate. It wouldn't be a separate contract. We would just amend our current contract and build it into there. And it's just operations. Whether you need to reconcile that with the State Board of Accounts, that's up to you if you need that granular data. But it would just be another duty, just like operations and maintenance, within the scope of our of our current operating contract.
I think that we ought to have some type of reporting.
Is it possible to share or just maybe the summary of the year-end totals from 22, 23, and year-to-date 24, the three districts, or the really four districts, but we get very few locates on Carriage Hills.
I don't think we're, as far as I know, I don't think we get the locates for Carriage Hills, do we? Because I haven't seen any of those come through. If we do, I haven't seen any come through yet. So just to give you an idea, we've only been doing it 10, 12 days, and I think the number was 79 locates just in those 12 days. Now, granted, the summer months are always the busiest, but that's a lot of locates. If I could, do I have to ask permission to share my screen?
Fair question.
Let's see.
Share. Well,
There we go. Share screen.
Yeah.
It says host disabled attendees screen sharing.
Hmm. Right, advanced sharing. Here you go, you should be able to do it now. Share.
All right, give me 1 second. All right, share screen.
I'm just curious what the totals,
Yeah, I'm gonna
are
pull it up.
those totals the actual number of locates, or is it the dollar amount that we paid JPR?
Oh, it's just the actual number of locates.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, that gives you an idea of volume. So.
Let's see which this one is. This is 2023. So that's now it does. The problem is, can you see it?
No.
Yeah, you're gonna need to
Did
zoom
Let's
it, please.
I'm trying here. Let's see. Let's go for 800%. How about that? How about that?
Great.
Yes.
All right, we're gonna start in January. So January, that's a lot. 211.
And that would be for all the districts. It's not separated by Wyatt
Yeah.
Grange or Otten on these numbers.
It's not separated,
Okay.
and
That's
I don't know. I don't know if it may be possible to separate it. That was one thing that I wanted to look at as well. Is within, see how you have a member ID and then you have a service area code. It's
Mhm.
possible that we create separate service areas for that so that we can get specifics. Otherwise, what you have to do is you have to go ticket by ticket and kind of determine where it's at. So that's one of the logistical challenges. So you got January 211, February 147, March 129, and this is 2023. So the first quarter
Okay.
was April, May, June. Second quarter 339. July was a lot less. August, September, October.
Well, I was hoping it would have the running total on the bottom, but it didn't. So that's
It
why
will
I-
at the very end. It's going to give you the number.
Okay.
And let's see here. Let's look at this is 20. Wait, that's 2024 right here. Let's zoom in on that. So the winter months are much slower. And I can say, I mean, this is, I don't have June's. I can send those to you if you want to look at them.
Yeah, but I just put hourly rate on the top of my head, but I can't remember what my or JPR.
I mean, I was kind of looking at the invoices. I think JPR kind of handled it a little differently because I think Jennifer was like processing every single one. So it was kind of like there was a charge. There was like a charge for her to open up the email and then determine what needed to be done. So we don't have that other layer in there as well. But you know, as you know, sometimes these projects you can get a project in there and get, you know, crazy amounts of locates. Things can get spiral out of control quickly. And we just think that having the set amount works, but I mean, we're open to whatever you guys want to do.
About, set amount with a reconciliation at the end. Like
You can do that.
a true up or, some type of actual. So we're not getting hit with a large single invoice. You know, we've got a run rate that we think it's gonna be at, and then, you know, whether it's $1,500 less or $1,500 more at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's definitely something that we can do.
Hard copy of the proposal? Yes, there can be, but. All right, I'll right now. Yeah, right, yeah, all right, I'll reach out about that. I mean, I can worry about it. Except I think they need to revise that. Can you update the proposal to kind of include some of the things that we're talking about?
Absolutely.
So it's in writing for the amendment to the contract?
Yep.
Are there any other
I'm fine.
questions or?
So, if he's setting a contract, do you just want him to send this, what he's currently proposed, and then we review it and then ask him about changes? Or you want to ask him to send a contract that would have something along the lines of, you know, $3,500 a month or $4,000 a month, but there's a reconciliation to actual at the end?
I like to see what we talked about, the revision, and then that's what we look at again, because I mean, we do have the current one, we held it out. But it was.
Yeah, I think what we would do is you could agree to the proposal, and then we would just amend our existing contract to include this amount. And then you would sign the actual amendment. And I don't know if that contract is up for renewal anytime soon or not. I'd have to check with Tom.
Probably, but. I like to
Yeah,
look
I mean,
into that.
it could be something that just is looped into that renewal.
Well, we would need to approve the amendment outside of that.
Yeah, you know, without the approved amendments,
We
We
need
don't
to
wanna-
approve the service performance.
we gotta come to an agreement on what we're agreeing to first before we approve.
I'd say if you could amend the proposal to update the proposal to include some of the things we talked about tonight. And then the board would be able to consider it for approval, the amendment officially.
Yep, we can do that.
Kevin, if you can, when you send that, can you give me the total number of locates per year going back as far as you have data?
Yeah, I'll try to get through the end of last month, July. I'll just reach out to 811 and get updated data. And then I'll include it all. I'll give you 2022, 2023, and to date 2024.
Because my guess is from the numbers as they split back and forth, you about 1,200 to 1,300 a year. Is that about right?
I think so. Let me look at 2022. I have 2022. Here it comes. This one's closer to 1,400, 1,395 in 2022. And then you had 2023 is 1,257. And 2024, we
On
are
an annualized basis, you want about $67,800. Right?
is that what it came up to? I
What
didn't.
my calculator comes up with. 5650 times 12, $67,800 divided by 1,250 locates, or $54.24 a piece. Does not sound bad to me.
No, that's what I was figuring.
Yeah,
Pretty cheap,
does not sound that bad.
but this year's.
Well, I mean,
This year's much lower.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with you. We want to keep it simple. So obviously, if we do, and I'm not opposed to your other idea of the true up and stuff, then it requires a lot of accounting and overhead and things like that to actually run those reports and do the calculations and do that, which is fine. We're including, like I said, we're including locates in all of our contracts, that where we're responsible for doing it, and we're just trying to keep it simple. So, and it kind of protects you from anything getting out of control.
No, we're not gonna do it.
Okay.
That's on the recording.
Tom, they said hello. So if it's up to you guys. If you want to do it like you said, if you want to do it the flat rate, we can do that. If you want us to redo the proposal with the true up, it's up to you. I would say, I mean, I'm not a gambling man, but the true up might end up you have to pay at the end of the year.
Kind of all depends on whether someone's playing in Granger on State Road. You lose if they do.
Well, we want to be fair to both parties.
Right. Yeah.
And, I don't know if the reconciliation is helpful to the State Board of Accounts.
I don't think it matters.
No, I don't think that'll matter. I think just having the backup supporting information of the location of the locates or the number of locates within the districts would be the supporting documentation we need for State Board of Accounts.
Because I do, there are times where you looked at the monthly and looked at the locate.
Yeah, no, it's variable, and there's months where
Making another one of
a
kids.
project in State Road
Yeah.
23, they costly. I was trying to see if we had an old bill readily handy. But
I think it
Was it
varied,
right?
Yeah.
it varied by location.
Well, it was
Here's
based on-
one.
Right, so.
It was?
Here's
yeah, 'cause that-
here's
I think they were-
here's April's bill.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
This is This is April's bill. It was $7,152.
For how many locates?
Not a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah, there's, well, yeah.
But that was for April, so who knows if it lines up with the invoicing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd have to count how many locates, but it's not a lot.
Well, Ken's got a big boat, so, that plays into.
And he's also gotta have a vehicle to pull it.
That's right, you need the pickup too.
Well, I could promise you this: you'll never have a $7,000 locate bill with us.
Oh, he's 5650.
Yeah, 56.
5650,
There you go.
going once, going twice. So what is the consensus here tonight?
I'm not opposed to a flat rate, but we just need the reporting information for
Right.
documentation, and that's it just part of the additional language I was requesting in the proposal is what we're actually going to receive.
I agree with Jessica.
Yeah, I think if you get the proposal as it is and put in a, requirement, you're gonna do a quarterly kind of, report to show so we can kind of see how often you had to do it, and where, which
Districts.
districts are hitting us. We're probably good the way it is.
Sounds good. We can do that.
And tell Tom we said hello.
I will.
Or now, because of the hills.
It's more than $25 a bill.
Tom Asbury, right?
Yeah, he's just sitting in the office next door.
Well, we've been paying it now, Steve.
It was like 4,800 a month. There's 4,000.
That's just 4,000.
I think I'd use 50,000, so say 48,000 divided by 55 divided by 20.
But that's what you gotta divide by on the cubes, that number.
How much they already have.
Larger than that. It's probably
Just trying to give you some perspective.
right.
It's just gotten out of me. what we could do about it, but it's just, it's a big number for one monthly bill.
Well, and we've been paying it since we started.
Well, it's gone like this, you know, it's just gotten worse, just with activity and. I haven't heard of any legislative issue, you know, like legislative initiatives, but I know there's been talk. Trying to get it changed. Trying to get the locating rules changed, so you don't have to, utilities don't have to spend as much money to locate.
Make the caller pay for it.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a state wants to, somebody wants to play in the roadway and they gotta be located, really, it ought to be the people who are getting work done, not utility.
Well,
and
it's surprised
customers.
that you can call for a locate, there's no charge.
Or, you know, they checked up to like an insurance charge, like it's cheaper for us to provide the locates for these people so they don't tear our lines up. Like, yeah, it steals the copper out of your house. I give you $100 to go away.
So Kevin, are you on point with where we're at on this?
Yeah, I understand. We'll just put some wording in there regarding reporting, and I will also include the wording that we're gonna map it as well.
Okay, that would be great.
So I mean, I don't know if you. I mean, the value of mapping it is. I mean, it would be ridiculous if you had to go out and pay for that. So. I mean, I think it's something that the district's going to benefit on a multiple levels, you know.
It's a sales
I
guy,
appreciate-
I'm telling you, you already sold it, you don't need to sell anymore.
You're on selling.
You know, and you already sold this, you don't have to sell anymore.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin.
The mapping information, if it could be somehow, added into our GIS system between the county and the cities, that may be a major value there for a lot of people, so.
Yeah, we've done that. I've done it in different systems. I mean, we want to map it for our own purposes, but you know, I've shared our GIS with Beacon before, so that it just shows up as a layer on the GIS. Especially helpful when properties are closing and they can see that it's connected to sewer. You know, and it takes time to train people. Yeah, it takes time for people in the county to learn that information's there, but once they know it's there, then it can be very valuable.
All right, moving on. Thank you, Kevin. Well, now.
You're
we
welcome.
Ken.
All right.
So we did have a meeting with Ken, Jessica and I did a couple weeks ago and talked about, it was very timely since permitting. We had a lot of conversations about permitting, how we were going to do that, and that conversation occurred with Ken. They've been providing those kind of services to the other districts. The one thing that I think we talked about was that permit would have a cost that would cover the cost of the permitting, the inspection. So from a district standpoint, it wouldn't be something else we need to add into the rate. It would be a fee for those who need the service. So Ken, you want to go ahead and pitch?
Yep, and so what I handed out was a proposal that Jennifer put together. And she was scheduled to be here. She put the proposal together and said, yeah, I'll attend the meeting. Then she scheduled college visits. So, but that's okay. So we, Don's right, we over the years of doing these rural projects, working with rural districts, we've been kind of continuously finding ways to help a little bit further, especially in the admin section of this, because other than your paid accountant and your legal services, you guys are all volunteers and you know, you have day jobs, obviously. So, and you know, Jessica, thankfully, she's been around since day one of this district. She's been taking.
No.
Yeah, and Don too. And she's been taking on a lot of responsibility, admin work, as
Oh, there is a price.
treasurer, even responding to, you know, customer needs and things like that. We also do, when we're asked to, engage in those kind of things, do some review and things like that. And for other districts, we are pretty much, kind of like a one-stop shop when it comes to processing customer connections and things like that. The other things that we've listed in here, this is a menu, by the way. You're not, this isn't a, one or all, but you can take a look at this and see, okay, what do we need? Is there a balance that JPR can provide that provides benefit just in the places that you need it? So, like the concept of processing monthly invoices, you have a paid accountant that's already doing that. We do that for other districts as a part of our admin duties. But you already have a paid accountant doing that, so we probably don't need to provide that. We do routinely provide meeting packets where we're kind of doing some of the things again that Jessica has been responsible for all these years. Jennifer takes care of all of that, provides input, gathers input from board members and others to make sure that the packet is complete. And a lot of times she will be talking to a few key board members on a weekly basis to make sure that the upcoming agenda is covered. She attends every single meeting that they have, including work sessions, and maintains minutes. We already have a minute person, and we have somebody that's taking care of your current project record. And we don't, again, it's not, we're not married to this list. If you want to, again, use it as a menu, that's fine. We are preparing agendas for the districts that we're doing this work for. We post the public meetings, and then we also take care of the district's file maintenance and record keeping. And there is some requirements for that can be somewhat burdensome at some point. We also routinely in the other districts work with the district's accountant, preparing summary documents and payment processing on a monthly basis. Typically what like an office administrator would do for any other board. We also, this is something that we already do for you when we're asked to, and there's some things that we probably would want to work with the board on going forward if we decide to go down this pathway in the development of ordinances and procedures that we think could potentially lead to some more efficient management of some of the tasks that are currently being processed. And a lot of that has to do with customer issues and customer connections and things like that. We routinely for the other districts have developed and process an intake process for every customer, whether it's a new project or case an established district that has established sub-districts. And the idea of that is, and this is one of the things that we probably want to talk to this district about currently. It's a little bit cumbersome for a property owner or a contractor that's wanting to connect a property owner because it starts in the building department as kind of almost like a plumbing permit. This would be the only district that we work with that does it that way. Typically, the district, just like the city of South Bend or city of Mishawaka or otherwise, when a customer is connecting to their asset, that approval, permit, inspection, and all of that is processed by the owner of the asset. In this case, it would be the district. And that there's a couple things that happens that during that process, it is beneficial that we could look back in time and say, boy, I wish we would have done it that way. But and that includes the very detailed record keeping of things like, what we call in the water business tap cards, a good strong record of how they made the connection, when they made the connection, whether it was inspected or not, and also the detailed as-built drawing that we would want to have for that connection. If you remember early on in the history of the Granger project, for instance, because the work was being processed outside of the district, that record keeping was not complete. And we went back after a period of time. If you folks remember, we were having grease issues and we were concerned about, grease interceptors and how they were connected, and we couldn't find records for multiple sites because they just didn't get turned in. It's likely that the inspections all happened because that's typical of the building department. But the rest of the stuff that we really wanted to have for the permanent record for the district didn't get collected. We didn't find quite a few of them, but there were quite a few missing as well. So that would be something that would be remedied going forward. You would never have that problem again. The idea of actually processing the customer connections, that means that the burden that Jessica currently bears, I know you love doing it, it's your favorite thing to do, would fall onto us. That means the initiated call, questions, and answers that they need to process that, the standards that the district would require for those connections would be easily transmitted to that customer, either them or their contractor. And, putting all of that stuff kind of in a one-stop shopping location. And of course, through a lot of those processes, thankfully it doesn't happen every day or multiple times a week, but answering questions and, interface with those customers or their contractors so they can get their answers quickly, get it turned around, get their paperwork turned in so they can go on with their project. The attendance at meetings and any meeting that the district asked us to attend, we are already doing that if we're asked to. From JPR's viewpoint, currently, we only attend if we think we have something to do or if we just miss you. And normally that's either me or Jones Jr. We're both principals. We don't charge you. You could charge $0 for that. But if Jennifer takes on this assignment with you, she would attend every meeting, and there would be, that'd be part of what we would be charging you. And again, depending on what duties you decide to apply to this contract or to this agreement, we can decide whether that's needed at every meeting or every other meeting or whatever you're comfortable with. So the concept of completely establishing the interlocal protocols. We do that with every other district, and that could involve a lot of things. In a lot of cases, it might be county highway, it could be county planning, could be county building and plumbing. It could be all of those things where there is really kind of some opportunity for there to be conflict. And so the idea is to eliminate the opportunity, or at least try to reduce the opportunity for conflict. But also making sure that the property owner knows that if you're gonna go out in Granger and you're gonna connect to one of our sewers and it requires a road cut, by the way, did you get a permit from the county highway or the state highway to conduct that road cut? So those kind of things would be included in those protocols. We already provide, under our, ongoing relationship with you, not necessarily under contract, just relationship, where we provide non-specific engineering work when you ask us to. And that does include, in some cases, probably more cases than not, review of customers' connections, especially in the commercial setting. Residential settings are probably something that your operator can pretty much do once we process the permit and get them going in the right direction. But here in the last month or so, we've reviewed several customer connections at a commercial site. So they can be a little complicated, not really that bad though. So we would routinely and do in all of the other districts where we work, interact with the collection and treatment system operators. And the funny thing about that is it's mostly, other than LaPorte, where we interact with the city of LaPorte that runs the rolling prairie system, it's all these guys. They seem to go wherever we go. We actually like it when they're working in the same districts that we're working in, because we know how they think and they know how we think, and it seems to be pretty fluid. We almost always want to act as the primary point of contact for the district and your customers. That means when they're making a call, they got a problem, it's usually and almost always coming to our office. And then we decide who is responding. A lot of times it's somebody internal at JPR that's responding. Whether-
Is that outside of billing questions?
Yeah, what we would prefer to do is to set your phone contact so it comes into our office and it's answered by a specific person. It normally would be Jennifer. And then she would decide how we react to that. And so that single point of contact is usually fairly beneficial to the property owner if they're trying to get an answer. And the good thing about it is she sits in the building where the same engineers that, have a good deal of experience and knowledge of your system are also, so.
So the emergency contact, which is on all the stations out there, is gonna be Asbury.
It still would need to be Asbury as the operator. Yep.
But if they got general questions,
Yep.
instead of calling county engineering or maybe the health or
That would come
maybe
to,
building department, because they don't know where to call
right,
unless they get to the website, maybe.
yeah, we,
Oh, this-
Website.
so one of the things that
On the
we,
website, is it the engineering department?
It's Public Works phone number.
yeah, so one of the things that we'd want to do at the outset is to start to change that protocol almost immediately. We would probably want to work with Asbury and actually add a note to the billing that they're currently sending to customers and say, don't call that number anymore, here's the number. And then, of course, we'd want to go to the district's current website, we update that. And make sure that all of those contact protocols are in the process of being changed. So, and that's another thing that we have the ability to do in-house for the district is to care for your website. And we do that as a matter of practice for all of our other districts where we're trying to keep that website updated, as often as it's needed with all of the contact information. Like for instance, right now, like to kind of, to track down the current district customer connection standard, that really should be on the website that's easily accessible. And if there are any questions, that those questions come directly to an engineer that's assigned to the district at the company. So those questions get answered. Jennifer also even helps districts, you have legal counsel for this, helps the districts monitor their board member terms and renewals. That's one of the things that she does. Remember that some of the districts we work for may not be quite as sophisticated or experienced as you guys are. So something that we do. And then constantly making sure that we're keeping the district standards updated. Construction practices, details for each service area. Say for instance, the road standard is different than Granger. And Granger has some differences from Wyatt, not a great deal, but there are differences. And so again, this is a menu of services. You could go through here and say, this is what we think we need. Or we could start with an entire menu and then pare it back. It's whatever you would like to do. We typically would charge for this service based on our standard hourly rates, and most of those standard hourly rates charges will come at Jennifer's project manager level. And by the way, we have a different set of rates for municipal services than we do for our standard group of clients. So I'm looking through here. I thinking that Jennifer is in the project management area. So probably at $150 an hour for permit related work. For the permit related work, what we would rather do is to set a no net cost to the district permit fee. We could do that by kind of going back in time and looking at what it costs for you to process a permit for a property owner. And then, and then again, that permit fee is designed to allow the expenses of processing that request to be covered. Including one inspection. Who's doing that inspection? A lot of times your operator's doing the inspection, JPR is doing the inspection, then typically we'd be charging for that. So we routinely do inspections for connections. But Asbury, if they have an operator up there, they're perfectly suited to do it. And they're doing it now, I think, in every sub-district. So I would say that there are some advantages for you to look at this. You've been running the district for several years without it. Whether that's something you want to continue or not, things could get more complicated going forward as the district grows. Maybe this isn't the time to make this move. But I think that there are some definite advantages to giving it some serious consideration. So in meeting with Jessica and Don, it seems like that fortunately you've had Jessica. You may not always have. But, you know.
Well, I think the rest of us think we're fortunate.
Yeah, I would say you're very fortunate because usually, I'll be honest with you, usually we don't have board members that have a technical background. Usually they're, you know, volunteers like yourselves, so they're not interested in, you know, caring for the business part of the district like we've had Jessica. So anyway, again, this is one of our primary areas of practice. Rural utilities is something that we just kind of grew a group of people around. Jennifer, as you know, she used to do billing work for you. And we grew out of that because we really didn't think we were making any money doing that either. And just like the locates, it just seemed like it didn't fit our model. So, but this does, I think. We think we could hang in there with you on this pretty easily and make things a little easier for you. Other than that, glad to answer any questions.
I personally feel that we need a point of contact that we don't have. And that's all my years involvement, even when you were county engineer. You don't need this to be bothered with this.
Yeah, no, I think especially on the permit side, it's a definite value and a benefit to have someone that can organize it, manage it, and monitor it. And we actually get produced documents for the sub-districts or specific to the sub-districts instead of kind of
Well, we don't get them.
very, well, we do, we use Wyatt, we use Granger, and then we kind of change it for the situation versus having something standardized within the sub-districts that's just easily available and get on the website, that type of thing. So I think there's some value to that, but I also think we probably need to look through it, talk about it. So I
Yeah.
guess here either.
I would think that we would need her rate established in the scope of services.
So what we can do is kind of follow up this, and make sure that I'm quoting the right rate. But and the other thing is I think from a processing of permits, we can pull from what we're charging in other districts for that permit. And a lot of it has to do with, just making sure that the appropriate records being kept and, organizing and conducting the inspection. And by the way, typically if we go to a site and conduct the inspection under the permit and it doesn't pass, then it's another permit fee,
Right, or at least an inspection.
or at least an inspection fee.
Because we will need to develop then the ordinance that would identify those fees, and I would think we need one separate for a residential and commercial connection, because
Yeah.
as we do now, JPR is billing the district for their hourly efforts into reviewing those either site plans and the coordination
And
Asbury, we get, the bills for when they're on site and that type of thing, but every site is a little different, and there's some,
Yep.
Kreider, for example,
Yeah.
was more intensive effort than a different site that we have, so I mean, I think at least there should be a division for residential, commercial, and maybe within commercial, there are some, I don't know if there's, call them add-ons or additional fees, if this
Right,
happens, then
right,
it's this, because it's kind of hard to have a one-size-fit-all
right,
permit for the type of possible connections, because a hotel is very different than a
absolutely.
gas station is,
There's
could
more
be
analysis.
different, right?
So,
And one of the things that you could think about too, because, your district, I mean, you're not talking about a massive population of customers. Here.
No.
You're talking about a very small group. And, there is, a concept out there in municipal services that you're probably familiar with. I mentioned it earlier, no net cost to the district. Because is it fair for a commercial entity to come into one of your sub-districts and we end up having to charge you $2,500 to review plans? Who should be paying for that? Maybe there is a flat fee for the initiation of that work, but, I would say it would not be unusual for a small utility to say, we can't bear the cost of that. You know?
Well, and we have in our existing permit right now for the larger reviews, or when it's more of a planning type stage, I think we had established it's $1,000 fee, they pay to the district, that goes to,
Yep.
if there's Asbury charges, JPR charges, and if it is in addition to that, then they still have to pay whatever the actual cost
Right.
was, because of that very reason, that cost isn't being borne by the existing customers, it's specific to that single customer or group of customers. Carriage Hills, for example, did
Right.
that.
Yep.
They
Yep.
paid for the initial analysis of $1,000 and whatever was in addition to that was.
they put on 10 grand.
Yeah. So there is one thing that I'm a little fuzzy.
Right, I mean,
Yes, yeah,
it's taking your time.
So there is something I'm a little fuzzy on. When we initiated the connection period for Granger, Stephen Studer was still our legal counsel, and it seemed like there was some kind of a interlocal issue with the building department in the district, and we made the decision at the time that to try to pull that permitting activity out of the building department and do it on our own, that there was some jurisdictional complication.
They volunteered to do it and they were willing.
Is that what
to
it
do
was?
And
yes,
so we said, oh, okay.
All
yeah,
right,
through
And
the
then they
connection
didn't
period.
really
yeah,
Right,
do the paperwork part was
Right.
rather spotty.
yeah,
And so I think when that one was over, I know Steve and I had talked about, we'll never do that again.
Yeah. so that's good.
There
So we
wasn't-
don't,
Said earlier that they were still doing it. They're not still doing
No.
inspections.
but there's still aspects of their permits that if someone is connecting the sewer, it still triggers a building permit.
Well,
That's-
it's the internal, they will
Yes.
inspect the internal plumbing,
Yes.
to the point where it leaves the building. After that, they don't give a damn.
Right.
If it exists-
After that, they don't care.
5 feet from the foundation.
Yeah,
That's
after
it.
that, they really don't care.
so that's the limit of what.
Existing home is, an existing structure is switching from a septic to the sewer. They wouldn't need the building.
Yeah, no, they still need the building
Yeah,
department,
because they're
yes,
gonna have
there's internal
Plumbing, there's plumbing involved.
involved, period.
There's
That-
internal plumbing involved.
In switching the connection outside.
Yes.
You
Yes.
gotta deal with, you got the septic, as well, they'll definitely need a
Yes. It
plumbing
still
permit.
requires a
But
building.
currently,
And they need in theory, they need a health department permit.
They won't get their building department permit until they get a septic abandonment permit from us
Right.
first, and
Yeah.
then they'll get their
And in theory, they shouldn't get a building permit until they have their sewer connection permit, which is what we're trying to get nailed down.
Right.
And I think, I did have a chance to bump into Tony, and I know Mark and I talked. We want to get this figured out, then Mark and I will go sit and we'll see what we gotta do to get where can we get that contact point? Is it somebody's abandoning a septic? Where are they? Oh, they're in the district, they need a permit. Or is it at the building department? It's where, and then see if we can't get a little political muscle behind. This is how it's gonna happen. But like Mike and I were talking, it's easier if there is a truly uniform, you call this number, you tell them what you're doing, they will do your deal, you write a check to get it done, there is a permit.
Yeah, but how are they knowing they've got it? How, as we've talked about this at meetings in the past, how
That's
is
the
a
part,
member of how is a resident or a parcel owner in one of your sub-districts know they have to contact the district?
well, that's where you're gonna have to get the political entities to play the game.
Well, no, that's where we need to do a better job with our communication on, I mean, the only place it would be was the website.
Well, but
Or-
it'd also be the other,
But it's
those
the,
interlocal
I was just gonna
agreements.
say, or
That's where you're
in
gonna get the
addition
money.
to, is those internal checks and balances that right now the health department, the building department have. And or the building department and public works have, but
Have it with
we need to get the
We need to be
regional
in
water
that-
sewer district in that same group, and that's what
That's
what
another
it's
component.
failed over the years when we don't have a project. When we have a project, we're all talking and everyone realizes, thinks about it and is aware. But since Granger is now more than 10 years since the original installations, we kind of get forgotten about it. I mean,
If we can get our act together,
It's the,
and this is how we do permits,
we
and
each
then
have
we can get with
access.
them and say,
To that permit system, yes.
Yeah,
Well,
so
but-
I can see what we have limited access to the building department stuff, they have limited access to ours, so sometimes they can see a septic permit's already been pulled. And, yeah, they may call us to verify.
They
What
have an
about on a
actual.
transaction? What about on a transaction where someone's doing a septic inspection? Do you guys get all of those inspection reports? And do you review them?
Oh, yeah.
And
Well,
do
if
you
it
cross-
fails, if it's a
fail, do
passing
you review them
report,
for having to connect to the district?
No.
So someone could be running, like with Hess, where he was running that septic for 8 years after the edict to connect. You guys got a report during the transaction that said, you didn't get a report because it didn't fail. The septic probably passed.
They still get the report.
we get the report, the
He
secretary
doesn't send up. a
will look
report.
at them, and if it's a pass fail, depending on what the inspector marked. If it fails, it comes to me, if it passes, it gets scanned into DocuWare and it's done.
And I think what then that next step is though on those, and if it's a trigger in the health department system, if it's within the district, just because it passes, if they were required to connect, if they're transferring that property, they've got to connect at that time. So I think, cause that's how we've got a property that they finally sold the property.
Yeah.
And we have a different property owner that really wasn't aware that there was sewer right there, and in theory, they should have been connected to it, even though now we get into the whole, you had disclosure and all this other stuff that really should have caught it, but that was our question is, in theory, I would have thought through the health department, because that was in the Granger sub-district, that record should have been flagged at least for a question for something.
And it wouldn't be, I mean, we do it now for our administrative control areas and for well drilling, so we don't allow someone to drill a well in a contaminated area. Every parcel's flagged and it shows up red, and you can't drill in there unless it's approved.
So the GIS mapping,
Do you issue a septic permit in an area that is within the district where there's already a district ordinance requiring connection to sewer?
No, we'll
You
require.
will cross-reference the district.
Yeah,
So you have that ability, to be able to say, wait, no, you can't put a septic in there, you have to connect.
but what would be helpful is then that GIS mapping that could be in your system, so it would still, it'd flag those parcels.
yeah.
then you can find.
But
So
we're
it's
getting ready,
easier.
we should be launching in the next month or two, the new Civic Gov product, and FileMaker will be gone.
Okay.
So a couple things is, Ken, and if you could put together a net no cost to the district permitting
Sure.
process. and you can look at it from, here's what the residential is, it's 250. And then, you know, commercial, and then maybe a series of add-ons for what you might think, try to cover our base there. And that would be one proposal we can look at.
Okay.
And then the other is, because I think personally we are taking advantage of people. And we are morally repugnant for taking people's life time away from them. I think it's awful. I remember doing the darn agendas and minutes for 5 or 6 years before I found someone going up to do it. So, yes, I think we need to get at least what Jessica has to do to get a meeting put together on the table. We need to be paid.
We can certainly, again, you know, any way we can help, we're happy to.
And then, and also to Roger's point, it would be nice to have a single point of contact.
Yeah,
And a repository of information.
yeah.
Right, yeah,
Right,
that's-
I know
repository of
99% of all the crazy contracts and craziness that Steve has done and you have done, there's a box somewhere over there in Edison Lakes full of that stuff. Right?
Yeah, and we have our box, and Jessica has her box, and JPR has their box. The problem is that there's not a single source.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to get to that. We need to kind of, if we're gonna go down the road, it would be nice to get to where we have that ability. And that, so that if at some point when we become really big and we have our office tower, just move all that crap.
Yeah.
And do you have any idea, or estimate, and I know this would just be a spy, I guess, to like, what it would be monthly?
You know, I texted her after I came in here and sat down because she could have told me exactly what she's charging other districts.
I was really hoping she'd
But
be
I
here
could-
because I could.
I would say that's a good measure, because some of them are more complicated than yours, and some are less complicated.
I think
So-
you could maybe pick one of the districts that are as
Yeah.
similar as possible.
Yeah.
And you could just kind of email out what
Sure.
some of the monthly
Yep.
costs are. and-
Yep.
But you don't wanna send it to Jessica, cause then she'll see what she should have been paid for lunch.
That's right, and then she's gonna turn.
It'll be
the bill.
No, I already
Hey.
know because we pay the accountant, but I used to do for free as well, so.
That's good.
Were you a
I
lawyer
cleared
too?
all my audits anyway.
She better not be doing legal work.
Were you a lawyer too?
Or else she'll leave me. I guess my thought is there's a couple issues we'll talk about later that prove the point that you need an administrator.
Yes.
I think we've known that for a while. Does it make sense though? And this isn't taken away from JPR. JPR's an excellent organization. I think that should be right there. But does it make sense to look to Asbury? Does it make sense to think about your local agreement where you become part of county engineer? Are there other options to be considering as you make this step? Hiring your own administrator.
No, because then you get into
I don't
workers' comp, you gotta do your own, we gotta do all that kind of employee crap. No, thank you.
Benefits.
And I don't think you have enough work for a
No.
full-time person, even, I mean, this is an on-call, most of it, where you
I mean,
need
other than putting the board and other thing together, which.
that,
my
that type
memory
of
is
service
that
that
we
JPR
maybe,
provides.
Yeah, so like Jennifer's currently starting the processing for all of the customer connections in Tippecanoe, Chapman Lakes, and that's like 1,800 customers. But we're not expecting her to work anywhere close to full-time on that. She's gonna be processing, a lot of that will come through the internet. She's actually managing office hours down in North Webster. But, so that's the extreme end of it, and yours is the other side where you have a stable operation, you know, there isn't a ton to do other than to, you know, get things organized and have them become, you know, very fluid and easy to work with.
And so I think more the permit and the standardization of
Yeah.
the connections, that point of contact is definitely a valuable service. From a professional.
Can you answer the phone?
Yeah.
St. Joe County Regional Water and Sewer
Yep,
District.
we would,
Well, I was gonna, just give me 1 second. I was just gonna say that we can just add instead of, we're not gonna change anything, give them really one point of contact. They call the same number. And if you want to add a third option to our menu, it can go just to Jennifer and it can say for permitting, you know, all of these things. So it's really one point of contact. They won't know.
Yeah,
They won't. They won't know that Jennifer's not in our office, or
Yeah,
they
that's
won't.
a really good idea.
I call them, that's
And
really helpful.
currently though,
I don't know.
we don't have the customer service number on the website. I think everything's still directs to the county engineering right now.
Somehow people
That's
find
a
us.
change we could make anyway, cause
And,
I think we still, I have questions like, what is the actual number that's the real number? Because we had a couple that were circulating around. So I don't even know off the top of my head what the customer service number is for Kevin. I always look it up. So,
Well, that would
Yeah,
be,
and that would work.
Yes, and
yeah,
I think having a website would be beneficial. I mean, so that people can kind of self-serve
we
in that
have one.
respect.
there is,
Well,
it just
what
needs to be
ordinances,
used more.
we
Yeah.
could use.
And
it
we have some of that. I
cross-reference.
mean, Grange
I know
ordinances are
we
up
do.
there.
Yeah, but. we're
Just not, it's not
probably-
utilized as well as it should be.
And
what
and
you'd be
I was
able
just
to
going to
do-
add that currently what happens is people do call. They'll either call my cell phone directly or they'll call the customer service number, and then I pass that information on to Jessica. And that's that. I mean, it's not a procedure. That's just how it's working currently.
And-
Sometimes other people might get an email or whatever, but ultimately, we do get the calls and we just pass them on to her because she's been handling that information.
And I then delegate to, if it's if it's a Dan Fox question, it goes to Dan. If it's a JPR question, it goes to JPR. And that's how we've been handling the connections too. I mean, we're not necessarily talking about a huge difference of what we've been doing over the last
Right.
10 years, other than it doesn't have to funnel through me to do it,
Yeah,
basically.
That's the key.
But I mean, if we get a question about connection, I'm not looking through those plans and telling them what grinder station, I just send it to JPR.
And if that works, then that gives them, they make one phone call, they can get
Right.
service, emergency service, they can get the permit, they can get questions. And the questions and permits end up in your pile.
Right.
Doing the packet for the board meetings isn't a huge big deal, but it's something you have, it's like, I can remember going, oh crap, I gotta put that together this weekend because the board meeting's coming up. And that should be, oh crap, for somebody else, not for Jess.
Get paid for it.
Just get paid for it, I mean, and I can't believe you got maybe an hour a month.
Just the coordination,
Yeah.
just the coordination of we have an issue. It gets populated on the agenda, someone's calling around various people to get them to that meeting. I mean, I think it makes sense.
And it's, even at $150 an hour, it may be in the beginning, just taking care of the board package and some phone calls, you may be at $300 a month. Couple hours.
Yeah.
Well, it only took how long does it take to do the paperwork for this?
Long, because
I don't, because I always used to copy it, just fill in what I wanted. That was, the worst one was when I had to do the schedule for the next year, that took a while. But yeah, but this isn't the killer one, but it's a pain. But it's all the other pension phone calls, and I remember back in the beginning, every phone call that came to engineering came to me.
they did.
Well, and you say 150, but I see some of these on here.
At
So
110.
utility operations field tech at 110, utility operations staff support at 105.
Well, we
It
know,
looks like there's ways to spread the,
and actually, I'd rather have Ken do it all, because he doesn't charge.
he's zero. Absolutely zero.
I know
So
that.
what we
So
want to do
moved.
is,
That's all moved.
Kevin, can you change that for Ken? Press 3.
That's right.
Yes, we can absolutely do that if you wanted to say.
It's good to have friends, isn't it?
yes, I know, I appreciate it.
So, yeah, let's
Okay.
look at that, it was,
All right,
Yeah,
I'll,
if you get us a
we'll
little bit
flesh
more
this out a little
information.
bit more.
Yep.
Get back to you,
Appreciate it.
circulate it to the board.
yeah, and then once we get kind of that net deal set up on the
Yeah,
permit side, then we can kind of figure out, okay, which part of the county do we need to go to beg them to put us in the loop? And to help
Right,
us,
and-
help us make sure nobody's connecting without a permit, without connecting it correctly, without getting the services right. I mean, you guys probably have the most to lose if people do it. So I would say we can send it to you guys first, but
It's just whether or not. It's not that it happens all the time, but having a way to have either that access and get Civic Plus or something that incorporates us into that loop. Not sure if that's something we can achieve. or not, but.
Well,
So
that'd
we'll
have to
know
go
how that's
through Frank,
developed,
because
right.
Frank's coordinating
Okay.
all the different.
Yeah, because I'd rather work with the departments kind of on a, you know, on a friendly, hey, let's work together basis as opposed to have to go cry to,
I think we need the
Elected.
departments. There has to be a good relationship with the
as
departments.
opposed to go cry to the elected officials, so they go beat up people. Let's, you know, if we have to, go. If we can work this
I just
out.
don't know if the licensing, that's my concern, is the actual, being that it's a software and counties are paying for it. I don't know if they're, how many seats they've paid for, if there's an ability to offer an independent person a seat, even though they're a utility that is supporting county government, that kind of stuff. That's what I'm.
Yeah, there's always gonna be the detail to get that done. But if we can at least have the conversation heading in that direction, that would be.
But that's the
Way ahead of where
internal
we're
check
at.
and balance that helps health department, building department, public works now, that again, is it infallible? No, but it's much better than
Yeah.
trying to remember. Hey, are they in the district?
Yeah, and if, as we go along, they're doing locates and they're putting our data, we get that into the PGI, that will be helpful too. All right,
Because I think all of our data is just static maps right now, or but it's GIS data that came from a static map that someone just said, here's a line. We have a pipe from here to do a line. That's what we have.
and the little tiny lines going off to the grinder station. All right. We'll move on from this discussion. Request for municipal service.
I think most of that will be covered if maybe you wanna talk about.
You wanna, yeah, you want an update on Merrill at this point?
I
Kevin,
haven't read the
you
law.
may wanna jump in here, unmute. I believe he's working with Asbury on 2 of the 7 enumerated properties, is that right?
He reached out to me and I put him in touch with Dan, and Dan shared with him the collection procedures. And I know that I think Alex also shared with their council the connection procedures as well.
Yep, their council asked for, Merrill's council asked for the connection procedures. We sent it to them. We haven't heard back, except that they were going to reach out to Asbury to make it happen. We have stood pretty firm on our ground that it will require uncovering of any illegally made connections.
My concern is whether or not he got the septic abandonment permit. Because anything in Princess Way, to me, I would have thought would have been costs. Especially his
These are the
properties.
buildings up in the, like, the northeast corner.
Yeah, well, not necessarily the corner, just the loop, in the
Yeah.
interior loop.
Cause I thought they were. Did someone buy 3? There were multiple buildings that went
Yes.
along with this transaction. And I think we were told only one of them had connection and the others were just warehouse.
Correct, but I think then something switched.
Then we
And-
weren't looking.
Yeah.
I mean, I said this is not anything new for operation of business, but that's. The one though, because I wanna say it's the, it'd be the northeast of the interior loop at Princess Way and it's at Heather Ridge that goes into Sandy Drive, so the northeast corner right there, which was an existing building, has multiple suites. And I don't remember what the address is, because if he was paying availability on that one. And if they physically connected that, that's the one that I was really surprised it wouldn't have been caught by the health department. Because it's an existing building that's been there for a long time that,
Well, we've given him a
that had,
little,
was able to defer, but then,
we've given him a little bit of leeway because he hired an attorney and he's working on it. He says, just, we're gonna give him a little bit of time leeway, but at some point, may have Dan Fax out to do a dye test, see what's connected, what's not, and just start shutting them down. And if we need to dig them up and disconnect or inspect or whatever, I think that you can lean and we can do other things, just trying not to go there if we don't have.
If we have a ground penetrating radar, so we can go out there and locate lines if
Okay.
we need to.
Okay.
and the site that I'm thinking of, I don't, may not have actually connected. They were told that, yes, it's been connected, but I don't know if they have yet. I just knew they were digging holes like they were going to.
Rural life.
I mean, we do about 5,000 property transfers a year, so things do slip through. It's
It
hard
does,
to.
yep.
And we're totally reliant on, it's the information that they give us. So if they lie on the property transfer application, we're not gonna catch it.
which is what happened with us. That's the connections with Merrill. That's all I've got. It is progressing just on Merrill time.
Yeah. We all know what that is.
Shocked you got a trade for this, that's something. Just hand down the road or push it, cause cause he's so knowledgeable about it already, right?
Yeah.
I mean, would it be beneficial to go out there and run around with the GPR?
Maybe give us a week and then
See
I'll
what
send you an
Or a guy that runs it, he's off for 2 weeks. His wife's out of the country.
Well, and I
Yes.
coordinated with Dan because I said I think we've gone through and identified which ones really they haven't connected.
Correct.
And I think it's more the site that was split. It was supposed to be the warehouse because they did reach out to us. And they weren't making a septic connection because there wasn't any plumbing in the facility, so we were fine with it because they weren't gonna be a customer. And something changed.
So when.
They sold the building.
Well, yeah, okay.
And then as part of the building, they had to have sewer. And so he just did it himself. And then the title company held so much money in escrow until he completed it. So he wouldn't get the money until this, but he just did it himself and he didn't follow the procedure.
You know,
So he didn't have a
he
septic
knows
abandoned,
nothing
he didn't have a
about the
septic.
district. That's what he told me. He's like, district. District.
So when he finally rolls over and pays his penalties, his permits and his penalties, what about all the time we spend on legal? I get reimbursed for that?
I think everything
That
that
should
the
be built into
district
the penalty.
exactly incurs,
Yeah.
he should have
And
to
his old monthly.
repay
And
because
that may become the
again,
point where we.
I have no idea there's a district, but I still have to pay my availability fee every month for the last 13 years.
I have no idea there's a district, but when the title company told me I needed sewer, I knew where to go
I
to
knew
find
where
it.
to go, because it was right out there. I got.
I tell myself,
Buy
I'm
all
not
we
gonna
got.
speak
I knew
ill
where
of
to
this
go because
customer.
I've already hooked up
Just
300 of
because
in the district, right?
Exactly.
So anyway,
He
he
can
hasn't
his mother
said,
not. He's
he
keeping
had-
his mouth shut.
he hasn't said no yet. At some
It
point,
won't in the end.
there will be a kerfuffle or there will, it will come when we give him the final bill.
Hit his pocketbook, then it.
I think that's gonna come, because it's gonna be a number. I mean, it's gonna be a few sites, I believe. I don't know that we're talking just one.
And at the end of the day, if he doesn't pay it, I'm leaving.
Just
So-
get it that way.
Alex wants to lean. I mean, he is
Okay.
like literally, can I lean it?
Well,
Please, can I lean it? No, stop.
I would prefer the lien, because then when the payment doesn't go through, it's not on us.
We don't have to worry about that.
You said it.
Oh, that's nice.
All right, that's fair.
All right, moving on. We have no customer inquiry.
I just wanted to talk about Hess one more time.
Yeah, we're gonna do that under Granger.
Yeah, we're
Okay,
here,
so-
we're
We're
Granger,
here.
rock and roll.
So I guess Hess, Kevin, not throwing you under the bus, but we're waiting. No,
No.
sorry.
Wait.
On Hess, we have you have the letter.
Yes, I need to read the
You need to
letter.
read the letter.
Yes.
It is pretty harsh. What we've concluded on Hess is that he lied on his disclosure form. Whether he did so knowingly or not, we're not
You
sure.
say you had sewer.
He said he had septic.
Well, that's what he's got.
Well, honestly, we don't know what he said because we've not seen the disclosure, but he lied either way, because if he said he had sewer, then he's lied because Dan Fox ran a connection test and it's not connected. If he said he had septic, he lied because he's not supposed to have septic. He was put on notice in 2012 with everybody else that he needed to connect to the district. So one way or another, the disclosure form is wrong.
Well, he's on septic, but he didn't disclose the fact that he was supposed to connect. It's a
He's on
fraud.
septic,
Fraud.
but I think the disclosure says you have a rightful functioning septic system. Or
He
you
didn't
don't know.
disclose his sewer bill.
Yes, he didn't disclose his sewer bill, which he's been paying.
It's because he was.
But his
paying
wife
for
was
it.
paying, so he didn't
So-
know that he had a
So the
sewer
whole thing is a
bill.
hot mess that ends up really pointing back at Hess. We're sending him a letter that says that the new folks are paying, they are not connected. That is a decision you need to make on whether or not you want to force the
You
connection.
paid the connection.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yes,
I mean-
everything except the actual paid moral to
Right.
hook it up.
Hooking it up's not gonna be free, right?
Someone that represented themselves as has paid the connection fee. I think he's contending he's never paid anything.
Never paid
But
it.
no, I'm saying there's a cost to connect.
Yes, there was $1,500.
How much does Merrill charge to connect? Merrill knew how to connect.
Oh, that could
He
vary.
doesn't know anything
Yeah.
about it, so.
Yeah,
But I guess my,
That
so
varies.
someone's gonna have to dig up his septic, gonna have to apply for a septic abandonment permit. Gonna have to go
which
through
is complicated, I mean, it's free still, right?
that whole process. Is there, do they have to dig up the septic or do you just allow them to leave it?
They can dig it out. The main thing is just knocking a hole in the bottom of the tank.
Collapse.
Collapse the tank.
My point is the new owner probably is gonna have a problem, Mr. Hess,
At that point in time, it's really, it goes back to,
between them.
that's not our problem.
And any money that Mr. Hess is
This
paying.
guy's gonna have himself a.
But I think at this
$70,000
point, we have confirmed that Mr. Hess was should have been rightfully part of the district. We're sending him a letter that says, go pound sand, you have bigger problems than us, like the homeowner you applied to. And then, your question here is, do you want to force the homeowner? The new homeowner?
We're gonna have to.
I think you're gonna.
I
have
think,
to.
I think you should force the homeowner to connect, and then they can go back to their title company and say that they weren't given.
And there may actually.
That's
be the
exactly
new
what I told my
owner-
brother. I said, "Yeah, I got a title claim coming your way."
The new owner may have a claim against the title. For not having identified it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I told my brother last time we were together having a beer. You got a title company coming. And he goes, what? He goes, "Well,
Just
I've got
make
nothing
it
to do with
clear
that."
that they were supposed to connect in 2013. And then
Yeah.
they'll see that it wasn't their responsibility, and it falls on the title company should have known this, of course.
Can't have a lawsuit without a title company.
That's responsibility.
I'm not aware.
But who do they contact?
Yeah.
Because I would say, I don't. The title company has not contacted,
You ever,
as of,
then maybe I'm
I
wrong.
don't know who they're.
They're only
Now,
basically guaranteeing
realtors
that the title is.
Contact me all the time
So they can. let-
during
they
their,
contact
when
us.
they're listing or during an offer and transaction.
Yeah, moving forward.
About confirming whether or not they're sewer or they're on septic or.
Yeah, if it's
whatever.
unsure, they usually reach out to us.
Yeah.
And there's times I've held title companies accountable. They failed to notify the buyer that they had high arsenic and it was in the 25 range. So they get a letter from us saying you need to do something about your high arsenic, and they went ballistic. Turned out the title company never told them, so we ordered the title company to install radon or arsenic mitigation.
So are the title
So we
companies
will go
reaching out
after it.
to the health department then on when there's property transfers
Well,
directly
the
or?
real estate agent and the title company
Yes.
are both considered agents. And so in our ordinance, anybody that's an agent in that transaction could be held responsible.
And I mean, it may be one or two times it's been the title company, but most typically real estate agents.
It's the
reach
realtors,
out.
realtors used to call all the time.
Yes.
This is in the
I
district.
mean, I've got, and we send a letter and I've saved all those and. So that happens regularly.
Yeah, I would say we'll carry on with the letter to Mr. Hess saying,
Kevin, do you need my help in notifying the new owner of the need to connect? Kevin, what?
Hey, you're on mute, you're
You're on
muted
mute,
if you're
Kevin.
talking.
I'll check into that, but
Yeah.
that was really the questions we had. Mr. Hess is really not. At first, we thought there might be some confusion, but it looks like now, I'll say this. It looks like JPR ran kind of the notices and such. At some point, if this gets ugly, I'm gonna need something that shows that we sent a letter. I mean,
Yeah, because I have copies of notices, but it's not
so
specific.
yeah,
I have copies of the address labels and who the mailing list was,
that would help.
so.
yeah,
and
That would be
yeah,
helpful.
But our letters weren't specifically addressed to individual people. it went out as the mailer.
But, and that's kind of what I was saying earlier about the need for an administrative, centralized data center.
We had one letter that did, and it cost us $12,000 to do it, so that's why we didn't do it anymore. To do, in the Granger project, we did it wasn't, actually it might have been certified. May have done a certified letter, but we did one mailer that was specific to each individual customer and to mail merge and organize. Because it was, yes, because it was a 12-page letter to each customer, and so that's why we kind of stopped doing and did two interested parties or whatever,
That's us.
property owner, or whatever we address it to.
That's us. I've got a little bit more old business, but I can do that during old business.
You're right, Granger, Carriage Hill is my favorite place.
Never a problem.
Love
Just checks.
gravity, I love gravity. Wyatt. Otten Road. Area plan, county surveyor. Health department, no report, engineering, old business.
Whole business. Final issue is the crash, the insurance claim. Don, I don't know if you've heard any more. We're waiting for one more invoice or two more invoices from Asbury. Kevin, can you hear us? We'd asked for a couple of invoices that the insurance company, the insurance adjuster's asking for.
From A&R. Is that still, we're waiting for the actual physical A&R invoice?
And there was a couple of charges that can't be substantiated. So we're digging into that, to clean that up. Don't have any indication that they're not gonna.
Yeah,
Is that what you,
that's, bless my thought to Stacy, that they're just waiting for this so they can get their little.
and we're waiting for it from.
Yeah, cause if they get their little, they get all their little paperwork, then they can justify writing a check and make, fold up their little folder.
All I got.
All right, new business. Floor. And everyone's favorite part, offer turf.
I make a motion.
I got a motion, I got a second, I'll say aye.
Done. That's an hour and a half.
I know, this is terrible.
What happened to the 15-minute one?
It was funny, I've got a buddy in from Dallas and I said, I got a board